Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Call Halayimla Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakaha Kodash. And double honors to the beloved apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS, who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect. The tabernacle of David started with the 144,000 and the rest of the men, women, and children out of the 12 tribes whom Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai will ultimately have mercy upon. All right. Now, I'm your brother Matazabath from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Melbourne, Australia. And I just wanted to do a response off the beloved Elder Apostle Tahar video dealing with GMS are the true defenders of the truth. And this comes via way of a little excerpt from the beloved Elder Apostle's video going into Nathaniel Ben Israel's new book that was published on the 3rd of February 2025 entitled Islands of Deception. And within this book, I.U.I.C has put out an update to the 12 tribes chart. And one of the add-ons that they've added to the 12 tribes chart, which is why I'm doing this video to debunk it, is dealing with the specific islands. And so now when it comes to the tribe of Naphtali, okay, from the Northern Kingdom, they are now saying by adding to the chart that we have to take into consideration the islanders. The Pacific Islanders are now of the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay. So what I want to do is first I'm going to play Elder Apostle Tahar's video. All right. And let you hear it from Vocab No Precept Malone, because they were going into this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to debunk, showing you that the Pacific Islanders, all right, which is today known as your so-called Polynesians, which consist of your Samoans, Tongans, Fijians, Hawaiians. Also add into that list Aborigine Australians, Papua New Guinea. All right, just to name a few. We're going to show you through the precepts, all right, and going in and looking up some words and islands that they actually go back to the seed of Japhet. They are not Israelites. But first, let's get into the video.
Always been the case. We believe in eternal.
See, he didn't even know. He did not even know.
It seems that I.U.I.C, as per this new book and the tribes chart that's shown therein, have followed down that path.
Tell us about the
And not in the sense of merely accepting Pacific Islanders as members of the 12 tribes, but more specifically putting them in specifically Naphtali.
Can you tell us a little about the? Wait, is this always been the case?
The next
we believe
page.
in eternal
It goes on to the
judgment.
next page.
We believe in
sorry.
eternal judgment. And
Now, is this from? I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know if this is from GOCC's book or Nate.
There you go. There you go. Pacific Islanders and so forth. You know, that's they pioneered that more than a decade ago. And now it seems that I.U.I.C, as per this new book and the tribes chart,
It's talking about. So this is coming from the new book I.U.I.C, which is Islands of Deception. And deception should be going in a bin on fire, and nature going there with them.
I agree, Apostle.
that's shown therein have followed down that path.
tell us about the.
And not in the sense of merely accepting Pacific Islanders as members of the 12 tribes, but more specifically putting them in specifically Naphtali.
Can you tell us a little about the?
All right. So you heard it there, man. All right. So basically what Nathaniel, along with I.U.I.C, has done is they have now incorporated the Pacific Islanders into the tribe of Naphtali. All right. And to get some understanding on that, I went and looked it up myself. All right. Because we have to prove all things. Now, this is I.U.I.C's website, which is IsraelUniteSalakia.org. All right. And when you go into the 12 tribes chart and you click on the tribe of Naphtali, This is what it says on their website. It says Middle Ages name I.U.I.C Indians and Gauchos, all right, which is absolutely correct. Because when you go into the history and when you go into prophecy, all right, the Gauchos, when you look them up, it has been said that they were like your version of Argentinian cowboys. All right. They were very skilled on the horses. All right. If you ever seen, if you're down in the south of the U.S., Texas, if that be, and you go on those bull rides. All right. That's what you'll see a lot of Argentinians on those bull rides, man. OK. But they have here, they say present day name Argentinian, Chilean, which that's absolutely correct pertaining to prophecy. But notice they added in Pacific Islanders, which is going off. OK, Pacific Islanders are not part of the seed line of Jacob. They're not a part of the 12 tribes. And we're going to show you. Now, they go on to add location today, Argentinian, Chilean, Pacific Islands and scattered regions of the earth. All right. So their proof of this is here. All right. We're going to start in the precept at the top, Deuteronomy 33 and 23, which is talking about the blessings. All right. Pertaining to the 12 tribes. Now it says here, and of Naphtali, he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of Yahweh, possess thou the west and the south. Now, when you understand this breakdown, this is speaking about when the bulk of the 12 tribes will end up in the Americas. All right. The west and the south represents South America, which when you look on a map. All right. Which let's do this real quick. If we pull up a new tab and we pull up the map of South America. All right. You have. See if we can do this one. All right. You have to the west and the south, you have Chile and Argentina. OK. Now, here's the thing, because when you look up, let's say, the map of ancient Israel. All right. Where the 12 tribes dwelt before we were kicked out of the land. As you can see up here, Naphtali is at the top. So this is proven to show that this wasn't talking about in the land of Israel, because this is not of the west and south. They're up the top north of Israel. All right. So what you have to understand is when you deal with prophecy, let's get Genesis, let's get Genesis, the 49th chapter. All right. And let's start at the top. It says, and Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Now, we always go into this. When you look up the words last days. All right. Let's see here. All right. You have Aharayath. All right. Which means in the outline biblical usage, it says after part, end, or issue, event, latter time, prophetic for future time. OK. It says posterity, last, hindermost. All right. Now, the Strong's definition says the last or end, hence the future. OK. That's pretty much what it means. Prophetic for the future. So Jacob called his 12 sons, and basically he wasn't talking about his 12 sons in general, what would happen to them. But really, when you go into this, it was speaking about the 12 sons' descendants, what would befall them in the latter end, which is currently the end that we're in now. That's what it's talking about. And to prove that further, when you drop down to Naphtali, or what was going to happen to them, this is Genesis 49 and 21, and I'll highlight it so you guys can see. It says, Naphtali is a hind let loose. He giveth goodly words. Now, the breakdown to this, to understand it, is when you deal with the so-called Argentinians and Chileans today, they're known for their good words, okay? Their mannerisms. They're a very welcoming tribe of people. And not only that, when it says that it is a hind let loose, We spoke about the Ganchos, all right, when you go into who the Ganchos were, because they were skilled men, okay, when it came to their horses. Okay, they lived on the plains of the wild. That's what it means when Naphtali is a hind let loose. He's like a deer let loose. Okay, that's what it's talking about. And when you go into the history of the Argentinians and Chileans, that's what they do. Okay. And so when you add that to their blessing, now let's go to Deuteronomy 33. All right, Salakia. And 23, it says, and of Naphtali, he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of Yahweh, possess thou the west and the south. Now, keep in mind, the bulk of the 12 tribes ended up in the Americas. So let's prove that real quick. Now, the scripture says when you get Micah 4 and 10, all right, it says this, be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail, for now shalt thou go forth out of the city, which the city in this context represents Jerusalem, and thou shalt dwell in the field. The field represented the wilderness in Africa, because when you take into consideration of secular history going into 66 to 70 AD, when Vespasian, along with Titus, sacked the siege of Jerusalem, all right, the temple, all right, which pretty much they sieged Jerusalem, right? Basically, they ran us out, okay, and that's pursuant to the prophecy I.U.I.C mentioned in Luke, the 21st chapter, okay? Now it says, and thou shalt go even to Babylon. Babylon represents America in this context. And how do we know? Continue to read. After the colon marks, it says, the semicolon, Salakia, it says, there shalt thou be delivered, and there Yahweh shall redeem them from the hand of thy enemies. So this is how you know this Babylon is not talking about ancient Babylon, because the Israelites, okay, which consist of the northern kingdom, during the time of the Babylonian captivity, they were already in the Americas pursuant to 2nd Esdras, the 13th chapter. So when you deal with the southern kingdom, which persists of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, they were the ones in the Babylonian captivity. And they went from the Babylonian captivity to the Medo-Persian Empire captivity. So we were never, Israel was never delivered from Babylon. They went from the Babylonian captivity, speaking of the southern kingdom, that is the Jews, straight into the Medo-Persian Empire captivity. So the prophet Micah had prophesied that we would end up in Babylon, which is referring to America. Okay, now let's go from there. Okay, because you can also link that with Revelation, the 12th chapter. Okay, Revelation 12 and 14. All right, it says, and to the woman, which the woman represents Israel, were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness. Okay, and that happened. The wilderness in this context represents Africa, into her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. And that place is speaking of America. Okay, because Esau nourished us, all right, for that 350-year period. That's what a time and times and half a time. That goes into 3.5, which is 350 years. Okay, so this is the and when you, let's see here, because if you get the precept, let's see if they link it to here. Okay, they don't link it. Let's go back to Micah. Let's see if they, because sometimes Blue Letter will link it and then other times they don't. All right, but see, we are able to put the precepts together. Let's see here. There it is right here. Thou shalt go forth out of the city, right? Now, when you click on that, here's the precept. Revelation 12 and 14. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, Africa, into her place, America, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. You see, that's a direct precept to Micah 4 and 10, Revelation 12 and 14. So that proves that the bulk of the 12 tribes will go into Babylon the Great, which is also known as the land of the north. And let's prove that. Let's get Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 15. Not 15, 18. It says, and in those days, the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel, and they shall come together out of the land of the north to the land that I have given for an inheritance unto your fathers. Now, you have to remember the northern kingdom left first from the Assyrian Empire, and they came over to the Americas. But then Judah didn't meet their brethren until around, you could say, 1619, 1620. OK, so this proves that Judah and Israel, Judah represent the southern kingdom, Israel represent the northern kingdom, as it says in Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, were oppressed together. OK, and the only way that can happen was during the transatlantic slave trade, because both the so-called Native Americans, Seminole Indians, OK, the so-called Mexicans, all of them were oppressed along with the so-called African Americans. OK, the Haitians. All right. The West Indians. OK, that we were all pressed together over in America. And so the scripture says that we will both come out of the land of the north. Now we got to go to Zechariah 2 so we can prove who the land of the north is. It says, Zechariah 2 and 6, ho, ho, come forth and flee from the land of the north, saith Yahweh, for I have spread you abroad as the four winds of heaven, saith Yahweh. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. And there you go. So the daughter of Babylon is synonymous with the land of the north. The daughter of Babylon represents America, is code for America, just like Babylon the Great is code for America. The scriptures is not going to tell you that it is actually America, but it's code names for America. You have to be able to link everything through the spirit. So in order to understand Deuteronomy 33, you have to understand that the bulk of the 12 tribes will end up in Americas. Now, when we go back and read this prophecy, the blessing, Deuteronomy 33 and 23, and of Naphtali, he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of the Lord, possess thou the west and the south. So now you know that this could not have been talking about possess the west and the south of the land of Israel. All right. But when you go back to South America, OK, that's how you know it's talking about in the Americas, because possessing the west and the south, when you look down, this is how we are able to link who the tribe of Naphtali is. And it's speaking of Argentina and Chile. OK, the Chileans and the Argentinians today are of the tribe of Naphtali. OK, now to put it into perspective, now let's move on to the Pacific Islanders, which are your so-called Polynesians today. All right, because going back to their website, all right, now they said here, if we continue to read on, so we read the precept, it says, satisfied with favor and full of blessing of the Lord, meaning they would dwell of rich, beautiful islands, right? And all right, now that's not what that's going into, but continue to read. It says, possess thou the west. The Pacific Ocean is west of South America. You see that? And the south, meaning the South Sea, aka the Pacific Island. Now, here's where they go off. It says the Melanesian Islands are a sub-region of Oceania in the southwestern Pacific Ocean, and they are generally located to the west and south of the Pacific region. The Melanesian Islands include countries like Papua New Guinea, Fiji, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, and New Caledonia. These islands are situated to the west of the Pacific region, mainly in the southern part of the Pacific Ocean. They are characterized by their diverse cultures, lush, and landscapes. You see, that's where they went off. The Melanesian Islands is not where the prophecy stated that the tribe of Naphtali would possess. And we're going to show you that in the scripture, right? Now, what we need to do is, and before we do that, this is where they're basing it off of. All right. This is Nathaniel ben Israel, And this is a book that he came out with entitled Island of Deception, Faith, Politics, and Survival in Melanesia. So right now they are in violation of the scriptures because they're adding to the word, man. You see? That's why Elder Apostle Tahar always brings this scripture out. Meddle not with them that are given to change. Let's grab that. All right. Proverbs 24 and 21, it says, my son, fear thou the Lord Yahweh and the king, and meddle not with them that are given to change. In other words, don't meddle with them that are always constantly changing, be that of the doctrine. All right. They're always changing, man. And Bishop Nathaniel, that's all he changes up every time. Now he's adding to the 12 tribes chart. OK, so now let's deal with the Polynesians. All right. Now we say, based upon the prophecy, that the Polynesians, the Pacific Islanders, they are of the they are of the seed of Japhet. Now, dealing with that, let's come over here real quick, and we're going to try to breeze through this so you can get the understanding. We're going to start at Genesis chapter 10. All right, verse 2 to verse 5. The sons of Japhet, Gomar and Magog and Madai and Yavan and Tubal and Meshach and Tiras. And the sons of Gomar, Ashkenaz and Riphath and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha and Tarshish, Kittim and Dodonam. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided into their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families and their nations. So now, Japhet's sons, they were inherited the islands. Okay. Now, when you look up the word isles in verse 5, you have the Hebrew word ayah. Now, notice it says coast, island, shore, region. Okay. Coast, island, shore, region. Now, when you drop down to the Gesenius Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, okay, at the bottom, it tells you, it says ayah, and it gives you Genesis 10 and 5, Zephaniah 2 and 11, and Ezekiel 27 and 15. But notice at the bottom, it says the Indian archipelago is to be understood. Now, what is this saying? The Indian archipelago is to be understood, meaning when you look up the Indian archipelago, it's telling you that all the islands that is considered, because archipelago is just the island. We're going to look it up. But what it's saying here is when you understand what the Indian archipelago is and what's situated around it, those tribes that dwell around there goes back to the seed of Japhet. That's basically what it's saying. That's why it says the Indian archipelago is to be understood. Now, let's further investigate this. OK, now we're going to come over here and I looked up Indian archipelago. This is what it says. The Indian archipelago is a historical term synonymous with the Malay archipelago or Insul India, referring to the large group of islands between mainland Southeast Asia and Australia, including countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. OK, now the key part here is Indian archipelago is synonymous with Malay archipelago. Keep that in mind. So now we're going to look up Malay archipelago. OK, and this is what it says. All right. Malay archipelago. It says Malay archipelago is the archipelago between mainland Southeast Asia and Australia, and is also called Insul India or the Indo-Australian archipelago. It says the name was taken from the 19th century European concept of a Malay race, later based on the distribution of Austronesia. Now, remember that word Austronesia, because we're going to need that later on. Now, when you drop down and you get the etymology, it says the term Malay archipelago was derived from the European concept of a Malay race, a culturally similar non-Oceanic subset of the Austronesian peoples. There's that word again. OK, but remember that word Austronesia. It says an outdated racial concept proposed by European explorers. Now, when you drop down here real quick, it says the 19th century naturalist Alfred Wallace, an Edomite, used the term Malay archipelago as the title of his influential book documenting his studies in the region. And Wallace also referred to the area as the Indian archipelago and the Indo-Australian archipelago. He included the Solomon Islands and the Malay Peninsula in the region due to physiographic similarities. Okay, so that's all we need there. Now, remember this word, Austronesia. Now we're going to go, before we go to Austronesia, one of the key points in this is mainland Southeast Asia. Now, let's look that up. Okay, so Salakia, not mainland, but I meant to say maritime Southeast Asia. All right. Now, when you look up maritime Southeast Asia, it says maritime Southeast Asia comprises the Southeast Asian countries of Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, and East Timor. All right. Now, let's see here. It says the terms island Southeast Asia and insular Southeast Asia are sometimes given the same meaning as maritime Southeast Asia. You see that? So it says other definitions restrict island Southeast Asia to just the islands between the mainland Southeast Asia and the continental shelf of Australia and New Guinea. So that's what it means when we first looked up mainland Southeast Asia. OK, so it's the definition, as it says, restricts island Southeast Asia to just islands between the mainland Southeast Asia. OK, it's still part of maritime Southeast Asia. Now, it says there is some variability as to whether Taiwan is included in this. And Peter Bellwood includes Taiwan in his definitions, as did Robert Blust, whilst there are examples that do not. Right now, it says the 16th century term East Indies and the later 19th century term Malay archipelago are also used to refer to maritime Southeast Asia. In other words, they are synonymous with one another. OK, so whether it's Indian archipelago or Malay archipelago or maritime Southeast Asia, it's all tied into one. It's synonymous with one another. OK, so now that you understand that, we're going to come over here to Polynesia. OK, now Polynesia, it says, is a sub-region of Oceania made up of more than 1,000 islands scattered over the central and southern Pacific Ocean. The indigenous people who inhabited the islands of Polynesia, Salakia, are called Polynesians, right? Now, when you drop down, let's see here. And if you go into history, check this out. It says the Polynesian people are considered by linguistic, archaeological, and human genetic evidence a subset of the sea migrating Austronesian people. Tracing Polynesian languages places their prehistoric origins in island Melanesia, maritime Southeast Asia, and ultimately Taiwan. Now, why is this important? Because remember, I told you to keep in mind Austronesia, and remember, maritime Southeast Asia is synonymous with Malay archipelago and also Indian archipelago. So now let's go into Austronesian peoples. It says the Austronesian peoples, sometimes referred to Austronesian speaking peoples, are a large group of peoples who have settled in Taiwan, maritime Southeast Asia, parts of mainland Southeast Asia, Micronesia, coastal New Guinea. Okay, remember we looked up I.U.I.C. Okay, let's go back to that. Okay, I.U.I.C, which means what? Coast, island, shore, region. The Gentiles or the seed of Japhet inherit all of this. You see, it says coastal New Guinea, island Melanesia, Polynesia, and Madagascar that speak Austronesian languages. Okay, these are the seed of Japhet. You can't get around this, man. All right. Now, also add into that, you have the Australians, the Aborigine Australians. This is website I found, it says indigenous Australians are most closely related to the peoples of Melanesia, such as Papuans, with only remote ancestry in common with Polynesians. Okay, because you have the Indo-Australian archipelago, which proves that the indigenous Australians, Aborigines, they too are of the seed of Japhet. Okay. So to put it all together, when we come back to the scriptures, when we come down here to the Jacinius lexicon, when it says that the Indian archipelago at the bottom is to be understood, all of those tribes, because we looked up the Malay archipelago, which went into the maritime Southeast Asia, which went into the Austronesian people, which Austronesian peoples, okay, when you go into it, it says the linguistic connections between Madagascar, Polynesia, Southeast Asia, particularly the similarities between Malagasy, Malay, and Polynesian numerals were recognized early in the colonial era by European authors. You see that? So when you read down, it says they observed linguistic links between Madagascar and the Malay archipelago a century earlier. Okay, so these people, all right, they are part, even as you read down here, it says German nationalist Johann Reinhold Forster, who traveled with James Cook on his second voyage, also recognized the similarities of Polynesian languages to those of island Southeast Asia, which goes back to what? Austronesian people, which goes back to Malay archipelago, the Malay race, which are the seed of Japhet, man. Okay. Let's see here what else they got here. Here you go. Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. All right. He was the one that was responsible for labeling the races of people. He says added Austronesians as the fifth category to his varieties of humans in the second edition of his book. He initially grouped them by geography and thus called Austronesians the people from the southern world. All right. In the third edition, published in 1795, he named Austronesians the Malay race or the brown race after correspondence with Joseph Banks, who was part of this first voyage of James Cook. OK, so there you go. All right. Now, what we have to do, let's see here. If you go to Polynesians. All right, let's look this up. All right. It says the Polynesians are an ethno-linguistic group comprising closely related ethnic groups native to Polynesia, which encompasses the islands with the Polynesian Triangle in the Pacific Ocean. They trace their early prehistoric origins to island Southeast Asia and are part of the larger Austronesian ethno-linguistic group with a Urhemat and Taiwan. They speak the Polynesian languages, a branch of the Oceanic subfamily within the Austronesian language family. And then you have the indigenous Maori people from the largest Polynesian population, followed by Samoans, Native Hawaiians, Tahitians, Tongans, and Cook Islands. All right. Let's see. Do we need anything else? Let's see here. We'll add this here. It says Polynesians, including Samoans, Tongans, all right, and all the rest of those nations of people are a subset of the Austronesian peoples. They share the same origins as the indigenous people of Taiwan, maritime Southeast Asia, which goes back to Malay archipelago. It says Micronesia and Madagascar. This is supported by genetic, linguistic, and archaeological evidence. So once again, it's proving that when you link all of this up, it all goes back to Malay archipelago, okay, which the Malay race, Malay archipelago is synonymous with Indian archipelago, okay, which goes back to here, which proves that they are of the seed of Japhet, going back to the Gentiles. These are the Isles of the Gentiles. So they are not, okay, a part of the 12 tribes. Now, I will say, yes, you have Israelites that are scattered amongst those nations. Prime example of that is when you look at Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, okay, WWE superstar. His father, okay, Rocky Johnson, who passed away a few years ago, he's of the tribe of Judah, but his mother is a Japhite. She's Samoan, okay? And when you look at The Rock, he looks Samoan, but guess what? He's a Jake. He's an Israelite through the seed line of his father. So that is just one example, okay, which there are many other examples that we can get. But that's just one example to prove that, yes, you have Israelites that will be scattered amongst those nations. But to sit up there and to add that the Pacific Islanders are of the tribe of Naphtali, man, that's foolish talk. That is incorrect. They are not a part of the tribe of Naphtali, okay? They are Austronesian people, which goes back to the Malay race of people, the Malay archipelago, okay, which is synonymous with Indian archipelago, okay, which is the Isles of the Gentiles, man. Okay. Now, to end this off, we'll close out on this. You have a people, all right. You had and you know what? Because I got it here. But when you go into Argentina and Chileans, you had a group of people called the Mupake, okay, which it says here, the Mupake traditions encompass a rich cultural heritage, including strong connections to the earth, spiritual practices like Menchintun, and I don't know how to pronounce that word, Salakia, and traditional crafts like weaving and silverwork, all passed down through generations. Okay. Now, when you look up the people, all right, let me see here. It was one of them. All right. Those are the women of this tribe. All right. Let me see if they got anything else. Yeah. Let me see here. Because usually they show it, but if not, we'll get it on the other one. All right. Yeah, there's his fringes there. The one in the middle. But they had a different one. Let me see if I can find it. Because this is our people right here, man. And not every Israelite is going to look dark skinned, man. Okay. They were different dark shades of hue. All right. But there it is right there. This is their clothing. You can see the fringes. Okay. There's the fringes right there. This is from Santiago, Chile, man. Okay. That's just one group. And then you had the, I just got out of it. You had the Topa. Let me just look it up. Topa of, all right. Yeah. The Topa people. Right. You had the Topa people, also known as the Quam people, are one of the largest indigenous groups in Argentina who historically inhabited the region known today as Pampas of the Central Chaco, Salakia. And when you look up them, look, okay, they got on their fringes. You see, these are our people, man. Okay, thou shalt possess the west and the south, the tribe of Naphtali, your so-called Argentina and Chileans today, man. All right. So there you have it, man. These are our people, man. All right. Let's see what else they got here. All right. But these are the Northern Kingdom, man. Part of the Northern Kingdom, that is. All right. When you look up these indigenous, all right. All right, that's pretty much it on that. But you can do more research on this. Okay. You could do more research. Now, let's go into a little bit more history before we close out. Because you had, now this is from realhistory.com. Now you had what was called the Etruscans. And when you do your research, all right, the Etruscans, Let's see. Did I get rid of it? That's okay. We'll do this. Now, when you type in Etruscans and Minoans, a seafaring people, all right, it says both the Minoans and Etruscans were seafaring civilizations, with the Minoans excelling in maritime trade and the Etruscans known for their naval prowess and control of the Mediterranean trade routes. Because what? These are your so-called Polynesians today. All right. And the evident proof for that is when you come to realhistory.ww.com, it tells you, it says the Eurasian invasion. Because what happened was the reason why all of these so-called Polynesians today are around the Indo South Pacific Islands is because they were pushed out from Europe by the so-called white man. We're going to read it right now. It says, when last we left Etruria, we were mystified by the Etruscans' policy of not helping each other when faced with a common threat. Because the Etruscans, they were dwelling in Rome. OK, it says this incredible policy would, of course, have devastating effects. Moving ahead to perhaps 1100 BC, it is at about this time that albino people, which they was referring to Edomites from the Eurasian plains, now called the Latins, later known as the Romans, migrated in. You see that? This was Esau. When Esau came in, he took over the land, man. It says these Latins may have accompanied the Hellenes into Greece and then continue on into Italy, right? Because the Hellenes that is referring to is referring the Edomites were both Greeks and Romans. All right. Now, they were not the original Greeks and Romans because that was of Japhet, the seed of Japhet. OK, because the Etruscans, which is your so-called Polynesians today, they were the original inhabitants of this land. OK, but when Esau came in, what happened? Just like he does everything else, he took over the land, man. Took over this people's land. And what happened was, when you understand the history, they ended up being scattered and they came on the other islands. That's how they all ended up in places like Samoa today, Tonga, OK, things of that nature, New Zealand. OK, it says these Latins may have accompanied the Hellenes into Greece and then continue on into Italy. The nature of early contact between the two peoples is unknown, but the later relationship is well known to be one of violence. And that's Esau. Matter of fact, let's get a precept. Let's get the book of Micah, chapter 2. And I'm going to start at verse 1. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. And they did this to the seed of Japhet. That's why it says, but the later relationship is well known to be one of violence. Yeah, because when Esau came in, all right, what do you think he was doing to them, man? Same thing he did to Jake. You see, it says, please remember that we are using the term Latins and Hellenes in reference to Eurasian albinos, and it's talking about the Edomites. It says, soon after the invasion of the whites from Eurasia began, a coalition of the original black inhabitants of Italy, Greece, and Aegean Sea, which were the so-called Polynesian people, as you can see through this terracotta, OK, image here, right, formed a conglomeration called the Sea People. Did we not just look that up here? All right. Both the Minoans and Etruscans were seafaring civilizations. All right. So what we're doing is we're linking everything. It says they boarded ships with all of their belongings and fled the area. But those that stayed behind still had to deal with the white newcomers. You see? So that's what happened, man. And here's some more images, OK, of the Etruscans, man. All right. So there you go. And like I said, anybody can look up this information, man. This information is on the web, man. It's no excuse. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is now this is an article that I did a lesson on a while back. All right, which if you go on my channel, you can look up the who are the seed of Japhet. I've done a lesson on this about a year, almost 2 years ago. Now, this article goes into, it says Samoan Minoans from ancient Crete, the origin of Polynesia. And this guy took the time out to go in and fully prove that your so-called Samoans today, being of Polynesian descent, they go back to the Minoans. Now, the Minoans, let's come back to Genesis, the 10th chapter. All right, you had the sons of Japheth. So out of Japhet, I believe it was Javan, verse 4. And when you look up Javan, let's see here, or Yawan, okay, it's Ionia or Greece. Okay, Ionia. Okay, now Ionia, okay, which is i.e. Greeks, it goes back to the Minoans. All right, Ionia is synonymous with Minoan, which means that region up there, Greece, okay, your so-called Samoans, they occupied that area, man. And like I said, this article, this guy gives some pretty compelling evidence to back this up. Okay, linking the Samoans to the Minoans, man. So again, all right, the so-called Polynesian people today are of the seed of Japhet, man. Okay, not this BS here. Okay, of matter of fact, let me go back to it, Salakia. All right, not this BS right here, man. Okay, of the tribe of Naphtali, man. That's crazy. That's madness, man. Okay, and this guy is adding to the scriptures, man. All right, because here's the issue with that. How can the Pacific Islanders, when you get, let's get the book of Second Esdras. We'll end it on this. Second Esdras 13. How can the and this is going to cut that doctrine. All right, now check this out. How can the Pacific Islanders, all right, be the tribe of Naphtali? Because remember, I.U.I.C tells you that possess thou the west, the Pacific Ocean is west of South America, and the south meaning the South Sea, aka the Pacific Ocean, right? Now, somebody that's new reading this, they'll think, oh, yeah, okay. But wait a minute. It tells you that the Northern Kingdom, let's start at verse, see here. Verse 40 says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hoshea the king, who Salmanasar the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they will leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. And that country was speaking of the Western Hemisphere, which is the Americas, because that's why during the time of Christopher Columbus, whose real name was Cristobal Colon, basically they called it during his time the New World, because the old world was just over there in Europe, the continent of Africa, Western Asia Minor. OK, that was known as the old world. The new world was the Western Hemisphere. So it says, verse 42, that they might there keep their statues, which they never kept in their own land. And they enter into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely a year and a half, in the same region is called Arsareth, which Arsareth pretty much it means another land. And when you look up in the Jewish encyclopedia, they tell you that Arsareth is actually America, which proves that the Northern Kingdom, those 10 tribes, they went over to the Americas. But when according to him, it's the Pacific Islanders is of the tribe of Naphtali. That doesn't make any sense, because even during the time of Moses, when he was given the curses and the blessings, they had already dwelt in the isles of the, they were already in those islands after the flood because Japhet was given all of Europe. That's why we looked up the Etruscans and the Minoans. All right. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to, go through that. And I pray that this lesson was edifying. So with that, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor be to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakaha Kodash, and double honors to the beloved apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS, who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect. And it's on to the next, Lord's will. Shalom.